Mike, thank you so much for joining me today. How have you been?
Been very good. How about yourself?
Good, thank you. It's been a while since we've spoken. Obviously, we last saw you in the Octagon January last year, so it's been a while since we've seen you compete. What's your 2020 been like for you?
It was very challenging. The pandemic hits, and that was hard for everybody. And that was just, everybody's walk through that has been different. That was very challenging. And then I had surgery on my knee, and that was tough as well. So you put those together. It was a very trying time, but things really pulled together towards the end of the year. I got to do commentary for LFA once, and then I worked 9 shows last year for the UFC. Got to do a stint on Fight Island for 3 weeks. So the first half, I thought the year was it started out to be one of the best years of my life. I beat, arguably got the biggest win of my career over RDA. Proposed to my then girlfriend, my now fiance. She said yes, and I'm like, dude, this is the year. You know what I mean? And I had some lofty goals, and they got sidelined, by life and by the pandemic. And those days are behind me, and I feel good. I'm very prepared for this main event, and my goal now is to have the year I was supposed to have last year, and I believe I can make that happen.
Definitely, and you are matched up against Neil Magny January 20th at Fight Island. But obviously, the main event fell out. Chimaev had to withdraw against his scheduled bout against Leon Edwards. What were your initial thoughts when you first heard that news?
I thought I was going to lose the fight, to be honest with you. When they booked my fight with Magny, it almost had like an asterisk next to it. When we came to a verbal agreement, they're like, "Hey, you're fighting Neil, but there's a good chance that if this fight falls through, he's going to fill in." So it was kind of in the back of my mind that this could happen. And so when I woke up to the news that Chimaev was out, I was definitely bummed. I immediately, I woke up and I was in Arizona training for a couple of days, and I was like, oh, well, we're on our way to the gym to train. So I'm already starting to watch film on different guys I think I could be fighting. And got done with the training session. And fortunately, that specific practice, I was like, hey, we need to ramp it up in case I get thrown in this main event. We had told Sean Shelby that I would step in to fight Leon when we heard the news. So got done with the training session. It went really good, and found out that I was fighting Magny in the main event. So it worked out perfect. You know what I mean? And I'm excited for this opportunity. Excited for my second shot in a main event, and to have it be against such a formidable opponent in Neil Magny. He's an awesome guy. He's an awesome competitor. And those are the guys I want to share the octagon with. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, and Leon did say that he had an interest in fighting either you or Magny as a replacement. Why do you think that never came to fruition?
I think that because the matchup with Leon and Edwards has so much steam on it. I just think that that's why the UFC wants to keep it together. I don't think they're trying to punish Leon or anything of that sort. I just think that matchup has a lot of steam on it, and as combat sports has shown, you can't always guarantee that fight to happen. If it's like, let's say, you let Leon step in there or let me or Neil step in against Leon on the 20th. There's no guarantee he beats me or Neil. You know what I mean? We're in the top 10 for a reason. He's got to fight us first, So, um, so I think that that's the main focus. Is like this matchup has a lot of steam on it, and I think they want to keep it together for that reason. Because if you split it up, you can't guarantee that this guy beats the next counterpart. Because he's like, I know that Leon had said like he'd step in for either of us and still move on to fight Chimaev. That sounds easy, but you still got to fight me or Neil Magny. So I think that was the reason why they kept that fight together.
Yeah. So then, obviously, luckily, your fight it stayed together, and then your main event now. So how excited are you to be main eventing January 20th?
Very excited. I mean, this is awesome. These are the opportunities, and these are the opportunities that we fight for, and I'm excited to be in a main event. I'm excited to have all eyes on me. And, I'm very fortunate and blessed to just be in a fight week again. You know what I mean? It was, I had that surgery sucked. The recovery was terrible. There's a lot of doubts in my mind about not if I would come back, but when. And just to be back here now in this fight is huge. So just to have it be in a main event and have the ramifications that this fight has behind it. You know, this guy, whoever wins this fight's moving on to the top 5. So these are the moments I fight for. So I'm really excited to be in a main event. I'm very prepared for it. I know this is such a freaking cliche thing to say, but this is the best camp I ever had in my life. You know, but yeah, I won't take it that far, but I will say that this is the best camp I've had in recent memory. You know, going all the way back to the Kevin Lee camp, you know, so this has been a great camp. I'm healthy. I feel good. My weight's great. Stars are aligned for me to have a great performance.
And talk a little bit about your preparations then. Obviously, you've been out of competition for a year. Like you said, you had the recovery. But things have changed as well this time around. Obviously, preparing for a fight during a pandemic. Have things looked a little bit differently for you this time around?
Yes, 100%. I mean, first and foremost, I'm fighting a guy that's 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. And, you know, if the times were normal, I would be traveling wherever I have to travel to, or flying whoever I need to fly in to emulate that frame that Magny has. And my coach hasn't had COVID. My cornermen, oh, sorry, I just kind of turned the slide down. There we go. My cornermen haven't had COVID, and I just didn't want to run that risk. You know what I mean? I didn't want to run that risk of catch it. You know, especially, you know, I didn't want to. I was in good shape before camp started. And so once the fight got scheduled, I was like, I don't know if I want to run the risk of getting COVID. I'm in good shape now. If I got sick, I don't know like what's the aftermath going to be like. 'Cause I know some guys have been struggling with it. Some guys are fine in a week, and some guys are still dealing with stuff months later. So it's a risk I wasn't willing to take. So we made it happen. I was able to make one trip to Arizona to get some looks from some different guys. But, you know, bless my coaches' hearts, they were able to, you know, gyms are closed in Washington. So, you know, my coaches were able to get training sessions for me with small groups with really tough guys. And I actually had a phenomenal camp. I have like a miniature UFC Performance Institute in my garage. I purchased all the equipment I need, you know, from the cardio machines, weights, kettlebells, this, that. Like it's been fun. It's been a great camp. Like you would think that like I would be like, you know, it wasn't the best, but I made do with what I had. It's like, no, this camp actually turned out to be phenomenal. So I'm very prepared for the opportunity ahead of me on the 20th.
Nice, that's great. And you know, talk about Neil Magny then. Obviously, as an opponent, like you said, obviously he's a long-standing name in the division. You know, what are your thoughts about him as an opponent in terms of getting you, you know, like you said, up into the top 5 of the division?
He does it. It's skill wise. He does everything well. You know what I mean? He's got submissions. He's got wrestling. He's got striking. He uses his range well. He's got great cardio. He comes from an awesome camp. There's really not a lot of holes in this game. But I do feel like I match up very well against him. Just because he does everything well doesn't mean he does everything great. And I feel like that there are certain aspects to his game that I have strength over him in, and I can capitalize on those strengths that I have over him. So nonetheless, he's super tough. You know what I mean? There's not a bad thing I could say about him skill wise. There's not a bad thing I could really say about him as a human being in general. He's actually a really nice guy. So these are the guys I want to compete against. I want to compete against the guys that are very skilled and that I have a lot of respect for. And this is one of those guys. He fits the bill. So I think it makes for a very special fight. I know he's going to bring it, and I'm sure he knows I'm going to bring it. It's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, and obviously, like you said, you know, really experienced guy. But what do you think you can expect to see from him fight night, January 20th?
Probably get jabbed a lot. Probably get hit with some long punches. I just expect a ferocious competitor. You know what I mean? We're two fierce competitors, and I know that he's game and he's rolling and he's been very active. And I know he's going to be right in my face from the get-go. But, you know, it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. And this is a fight that him and I we've been eyeing each other for a long time. And it's good that this fight's finally happening. You know, may the best man win. We'll get a beer afterwards and go about our separate ways. But between now and then, you know, we're gearing up to fight each other.
And you're both coming off of 3 fight win streaks as well. So is there any added pressure on you in terms of keeping that win streak going and climbing the rankings?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always the pressure for that. I mean, I'm never really, you know, the thought has crossed my mind. Like, I've never had a 4-fight win streak in the UFC. And I would really like, it's all about setting small goals for yourself. The end goal is the title, always. I mean, the end goal is to become world champion, but that's a very lofty goal, and I know that I'm capable of achieving that. But to get there, I got to set a lot of little small goals along the way to build myself up to it. So, I want to get my first 4 or 5 win streak in the UFC. I want to move up in the rankings. There's a lot of little small goals. There's a few small goals I could accomplish by getting my hand raised on the 20th. I was going to say Wednesday, but I don't know if it's going to be Wednesday over there or Thursday where you are, or so I just had to change it up. But, you got to set a lot of small goals to get to the end goal, so there's some small ones I want to achieve this fight, but nonetheless, it's just, you got to put that stuff aside. You got to forget about the desire to climb the ranks. You got to forget about the pressure to have this win streak. You got to just focus on the task at hand, and then you can analyze everything that comes thereafter. So my sole focus is getting my hand raised after I beat Neil Magny.
Yeah. And you've had obviously that time away out from competing as an analyst. Do you see things a little bit differently? Has it given you a new perspective at all on anything?
Yes, it has. I used to look at a lot of fights, even fights that aren't in my weight class. I'd always analyze a fighter and kind of put myself in a matchup with them as I analyze them. And now I don't look at fights like that anymore. I'm able to break guys down just in a non-biased way. I look at them as a fighter, and I look at their skills, and I break them down without matching them up against people like I normally do. And it's sharpened my mind a lot. I mean, this sport is so mental. I mean, the mind is such a powerful it's such a powerful entity to have in this sport, so to have something, and there's only so many ways you can really train your mind to be stronger, train your mind to be better, improve your mentality. And this is one of them that's hard to get to, so I'm very blessed that I was able to work as an analyst this year and really sharpen my mind, and learn how to break fighters down, and going and watch it. I actually had to do analyst work when Neil fought Robbie Lawler. So I guess you could say I've just kind of been breaking this fight down for a while now. But yeah, it's been great. You know what I mean? And that's something that I take a lot of pride in. Is I want to be a Daniel Cormier. I want to be a Paul Felder. I want to be a Dominic Cruz. The goal is to be a commentator while I'm competing. I want to achieve that goal while I'm in my prime competing. And I believe I can make that happen. And I think that I possess the ability to have it benefit me and not be a hindrance. A lot of people think oh, be careful chasing this commentary goal, or this, be careful doing all this analyst work because it's taking time from your training. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm traveling to these events where there's a ton of different coaches, there's a ton of different people I can train with. I can get different looks. I'm focusing on the sport. It's more time I'm paying attention to the sport, and I already paid enough attention to it as it is. So it's just so good for me, and I want to be one of those guys before my time in my prime comes to an end. I want to be in my prime, calling fights next to Joe Rogan, next to DC. It's been great. I love it.
That's amazing. And when you take yourself out of the picture and you look at the welterweight division, what do you think of the landscape as it is at the moment?
Stacked. This is a talent-rich division with you got a good mix of young, up-and-coming guys and well-established guys that are solidifying their spots at the top. You got the guys like Khamzat Chimaev, the up-and-coming guys surging through the ranks. And you got the guys like freaking Wonderboy Thompson, who shows hey, I ain't going anywhere. I'm here to stay. This is my division. So it's a good blend. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of different styles, a lot of different challenges. And I'm excited to be in this division. I want to compete against the best guys. I want to win big or lose big, so it's awesome to be in this weight class with so many big names, with so many great potential matchups. I could spend my time daydreaming about it all day, but I'm just focused on one guy right now, and we'll see what comes after.
Yeah. And what do you think about Khamzat Chimaev? Obviously, he put his name on the map last year. What do you think about him, and how do you think he does against the top 5 in the division?
I mean, we'll see. He's got to fight. He's already in the mix in the top 5. He's got to fight Leon Edwards. So we're going to see what he's made of. But there is no doubt about it. There is a ton of talent there. That guy is legit. He's young, and he hasn't even been in the sport that long. So I think the ceiling is very high for him. A lot of high expectations. And, we crossed paths on Fight Island, and he's kind of, you see the guy and he's kind of got the it factor. You know what I mean? He's kind of got that aura about him where this guy could become something very special. But I mean, he's got to fight Leon Edwards. And we all know how good Leon Edwards is. So a lot of questions will be answered when that fight takes place, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, the champion, Kamaru Usman, obviously expected to take on Gilbert Burns next. How do you see that one playing out?
I think Burns is a nightmare matchup for him. And that's a bold statement because we all know how good Kamaru Usman is. I mean, he's a win away from being one of the most dominant welterweight champions we've ever seen. But I just think Gilbert Burns is so complete. I mean, the accolades he had in jiu-jitsu alone when he got in the sport are just so elite. I mean, this guy he can finish you anywhere, and he can do it in devastating fashion. I mean, I tell people all the time, people forget how good he is at jiu-jitsu because he's just got this penchant for knocking people out now, and he does it so good. That left hook's phenomenal. He's got great pressure. He puts his punches together very well. But if you go back and watch his gi matches from when he just did jiu-jitsu, his style of jiu-jitsu is so violent. And this guy he brings it in every aspect of a mixed martial arts contest. And I think that there's a reason why this fight's happening. You know, Gilbert said it himself. Like, he's probably had 100 sparring sessions with Kamaru, and it's a very back and forth, very tough for one another. So it's going to be a very exciting matchup for the fans. Good for the division, good for the sport. But it's hard for me to pick against Gilbert Burns in this fight.
Okay, interesting. Obviously, you know, like you said, analyst work has been a big part of you for last year. Obviously, you got to go to Fight Island already last year to do some analyst work. So are you excited to be able to actually be competing, you know, going back there this time around?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I can sit here and praise being an analyst so much, and I can sit here and go into detail about my lofty goals of becoming a commentator. But look, my true love is competition. I love fighting. It's everything to me. It's given me the greatest life I could have possibly ever taken for myself. So I love competition. I love getting out there and mixing it up with these guys. I love getting the opportunities to face your biggest fears and growing as a human being from them. I love fighting. I just love getting out there and getting in a scrap. And it's just good to be back. I love the rigors of training. This whole process I love so much, and I really feel like I'm coming into my prime at 33 years old. I feel like these next 3 years are going to be some of my best years, and I'm just excited to showcase that. So fighting comes before everything, and I'm super excited for the opportunity on the 20th.
Definitely. And you know, this time around, Fight Island's going to have a crowd in attendance. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, you've been there. You know, not competing, but you've been there when there has been no crowd during the pandemic, and then obviously we're going to have a crowd back again for the first time in a long time. So what are your thoughts on that?
You know, it's awesome. It's good to have some fans back. You know, fans are what make this sport possible. Fans buy the tickets, fans buy the T-shirts, fans show the support. They buy the pay-per-views. They have the subscriptions to ESPN Plus and ESPN or UFC Fight Pass. Fans make this possible. This sport wouldn't be what it is without the fans. So it's going to be great to have some fans there, but I'm not that focused on it. I really went into this with the expectation that there'd be nobody there. And, you know, I haven't really put a ton of thought into it. It's going to be great. I'm sure once I get there, and I know it's not a big number of fans, but, you know, anything's better than nothing. And I'm excited that there's going to be some people and that are going to be able to have the opportunity to watch some live fights. But yeah, I haven't really put a ton of thought into it. I've just been laser focused this camp. Like, I've just been Neil Magny 24/7, 365. So it'll be cool to have fans there, though.
Yeah. What do you think the fans in attendance, and obviously the fans watching as well, what do you think they can expect to see from you and Neil Magny January 20th in the main event?
You're just going to see two guys that are going to bring it. I mean, me and Neil are both very fierce competitors. And when you put two fierce competitors against each other, you get fireworks. And I think it's going to be a fun fight for the fans. It's going to be a fun fight for me and Neil. You know, may the best man win. But I think it's going to be a great main event. And I've been enjoying a lot of the feedback from a lot of the fans. They can be pretty harsh sometimes. But for the most part, the consensus says that they're excited for this matchup. And I'll give them a reason to be right on the 20th. It's going to be a good fight.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mike. We really look forward to seeing it. Thank you so much for talking to me.